Hi guys. So this video is to walk you guys through your first essay assignment. This essay basically looks at the material that you guys looked at in Unit 1. So you guys have looked at a number of different accounts of these early settlers' experiences, specifically Columbus and De Vaca, and then we've also looked sort of at what these other or marginalized voices might look like. With some trickster tales, Native American trickster tales, and from poetry from Anne Bradstreet. So we're really looking at this early understanding of what it is to be American. So I want you guys to choose one author from this unit, and I want you to develop a written analysis of a particular work from that author. So if you choose to do more than one work, so say you wanted to do both of Columbus's letters or two of Bradstreet's poems, that's fine. But it does need to be one author and has to be works that we read in this class. And basically you're going to develop out a written analysis of that work using literary terminology. So you're going to be looking at things like tone, symbolism, imagery, but I also want you to secondarily incorporate context related to their life, the cultural history, what was happening at the time. So you're going to contextualize the written work historically related to the political, social, economic, or philosophical changes that were taking place during that new early American identity. So as you start to think through what you might want to write about, you should be thinking about why that text matters. So why does it matter that we have Columbus's view of early America? Why does it matter that we have Cabeza de Vacas? How do they paint, say, different pictures of the native peoples? Or how do they paint different understanding of the voyages that they took to America and what the land was like and what the purposes were? With native trickster tales, why does it matter that we understand these deeply embedded characters in a cultural history? Or why does it matter for Bradstreet that we're looking at the social or family or even gender dynamics between these early Puritan settlers? So I want you to kind of think about things like, what does the text do? Why does Columbus write his letter? There is a purpose behind it. Why does De Vaca write his letter? Why does he call out the Christians in those letters? Why does Bradstreet write these poems that portray this life? What does it do for us as a society? Does it give us a glimpse into a certain relationship, a certain dynamic, a certain anything? Think about the structure, the subject matter, and or the tone, and how they show things about that author or society at this period. So for example, if I'm looking at Columbus, I'm going to pay special attention to the use of the word I. It's a very interesting pronoun, and he uses it very specifically to paint a picture of himself as the hero. If I'm looking at something like Anne Bradstreet's poems, why does she use specific allusions or metaphors in her poems? What purpose do they serve? Think about what the texts say about the intersection between religion or society, family, identity during these periods. Cabeza de Vaca paints a very sympathetic picture of the Native Americans, and he talks about their family structures. Why does he do that? And then think about how the work influences the modern perception of history and national identity. So Columbus, how does his letter give a specific view of these early American settlers? How does De Vaca's do that? How do the trickster tales give us a view of a specific societal structure? Or Bradstreet, a specific gender view of family dynamics or of social dynamics or religion? There's so many things that you could talk about. I don't want you to try and talk about all of these things. I want you to pick one or two narrow foci for your author and the work that you're going to talk about. And I want to make sure it's really important that you keep the focus on analyzing the text, analyzing the literature as literature, more so than the author's biography or the historical context. You can't separate those things from an analysis of these works, but I want to make sure that this does not become a biography or a history essay. Make sure that you are analyzing the literature in depth and in detail. And to do that, you're going to need to include one research source in your work. This can be anything that's a credible source, so it could be PBS, it could be history.com, biography.com, that's fine. Make sure you cite them correctly and include that in a bibliography along with the work that you're choosing to analyze. Make sure that you also have lots of good evidence in your analysis from the text. So this means that you pull specific quotes from the written works and you show your audience what you're talking about. So if you're going to tell me that Columbus has a very selfish focus in his letters, show me that by showing me quotes that talk about I did this and I did this. If you're going to talk about, say, Anne Bradstreet's views of religion and marriage, pull a quote from the poems that shows what she's referring to when she talks about religion and marriage together. You should have a clear thesis and main ideas, and you want to expand on those with good, solid evidence from outside sources and the text, as I said. Use specific words, phrases, or passages to support your claims and expand on them with your own analysis. So the way you create a thesis statement for this type of paper is that you look at what you want to talk about. So say I was going to do Cabeza de Vaca. My thesis might be that Cabeza de Vaca paints a very sympathetic portrait of the Native Americans and makes it very clear that they are just as human as the Christians. That might be my thesis statement, and my whole argument would center around that. All of the evidence I pull would center around that. So your essay needs to be 3 to 4 pages in length, and when I say 3 to 4, you're always welcome to write more. That's just the minimum. The 3 pages means you go down to the bottom of the 3rd page. If you write less, I have to take off points. Your essay is due Sunday, March 31st at midnight. Make sure you meet the minimum page length. Make sure you use Mla formatting. So that means you have a header in the top left corner with your name, the course, my name, and the date. Top right corner, you have the page numbers. You have a plain text title. And then you have double-spaced Times New Roman, Cambria, or Arial font with 1-inch margins all around. Do note that the bibliography does not count as part of your page numbers. And remember that all essays will be checked for plagiarism through SafeAssign. You will be kind of graded on good close analysis of the literature and major ideas, as well secondarily as the author's identity or the historical context. Good, solid evidence to support your claims from both primary and secondary sources. Proper number of sources, of course, proper page length, MLA, and citations, and then a fully developed essay structure with a good intro and thesis, clear main ideas, and a conclusion. Here are just some general ideas of what you might talk about when you talk about the literary analysis. Focus on things like characterization, so look at archetypes or how characters are portrayed as the protagonist or the antagonist. Are they developed? Are they flat? Are they static? Are they round? Look at things like similes, metaphors, personification, foreshadowing, flashbacks, literary devices. Look at the structure. So how does even the letters follow a dramatic arc? How does it have a conflict, like man versus man or man versus society? What is the point of view? Who is the narrator? Look at things like themes, symbols, motifs, allusions. And then secondarily, of course, look at the historical context. Look at the author's bio. Look at the work. Look at the historical events surrounding it. Look at the social, ethical, and moral issues surrounding the text. And you, of course, do not have to do all of this. This is just suggestions to help get you started. I don't expect all of this to be covered by any means. So the purpose of this is to keep it really broad so you guys can write about the work and the topic that is of most interest to you within that work. So do choose carefully, choose something you really want to write about, and if you have questions, let me know.